Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom.
Our first reading from Exodus is one of those moments in the journey of the children of Israel, which is kind of unique. But to give us a little background, remember that the children of Israel had been in Egypt for 430 years, like I had mentioned yesterday. But they also saw many signs, 10 signs, the scripture tells us, which God performed in order to set them free. If you also recall the story in the 13th chapter, they make this journey. And the scripture specifically says that God would have taken them through the shortest routes, which would have required them to fight with the Philistines. But recognizing that in their hearts, if they knew they were going to fight, they would immediately say, "We are going back to Egypt." And so, God took them through a different route, which required them going through the desert and the Red Sea. All right. The 14th chapter starts by telling us that the children of Israel are right now in front of the Red Sea, before them. Behind them, the Egyptian army is coming after them. And they turn to Moses and say, "You mean there were no graveyards in Egypt for you to leave us down there? You had to bring us down here to kill us?" At that moment, the Lord speaks to Moses and says, "Tell the Israelites, the Egyptians you see today, you will see them no more." It is easy to take the people of Israel out of Egypt, but the greatest challenge, as we see as they journey, was getting Egypt out of their hearts. And it's the same thing for each one of us, because as we journey towards God, there are habits, there are sins, there are things we do along the way that we choose to leave them, but after a while, it's very easy to go back and grab them. We all have certain habits or certain things we struggle with, which over the course of our years, we grow old with them, and we come to a point whereby we even accept them. The children of Israel in today's first reading come to a point whereby they are no more seeing their leader. And what happens? They immediately decide to create a God for themselves. It's easy to create a God for ourselves, and that could be anything. It could be a person in our life. It could be something we do. It could be food. It could be literature. It could be the internet. It could just be practically anything. We could create a God for ourselves. What makes it a God? If we give more attention to that thing, that person, or that place, so much so that it doesn't bring us to God, it becomes a God. The Israelites in today's first reading, what do? They celebrate this golden calf. But I think the greater invitation in today's first reading is this. When we live in a situation whereby people are distracted or deviate or step away from what is truly, truly important, we need a person in our life who constantly will remind us of what it means to be loved by God. Moses stood in the breach. Moses would have, said to God, "Okay, wipe them out and give me the promise." He did not. He interceded for the people. Maybe God has called you to be an intercessor in your family, in your relationship, in your friendship. And being an intercessor requires that we constantly come to the presence of God, because it's not easy. Many of you have kids. Many of you are grandparents. Many of you are, some of you are probably great-grandparents. But for all of us as Christians, we are called to be intercessors. And it's not easy to intercede for people, because sometimes the very people you intercede for might turn against you. And you do realize in the story of Exodus, the children of Israel turned against Moses not once, not twice, not 3 times, but many times. In fact, I dare say it was because of the children of Israel that Moses lost the opportunity of getting into the promised land. And yet, the scripture tells us that Moses was the meekest man on the face of the earth. If there's any gift we all have to desire, it is the gift of meekness. And meekness is not weakness. Meekness is being able to control oneself in the face of challenges, in the face of chaos, even in the face of apparent desolation. Every one of us, as we journey towards God, will experience some form of desolation. The question is, how will we react? It is desolating for Moses, in fact, to lead all of these people and come to this point. They are at the mountain. They had just heard God tell them the 10 Commandments. But even with all of that, seeing all of that, recognizing all of God's blessing, they still forget it. Do we ever remember God's blessings when we face challenges in our lives? It's not easy to remember good times when the tough moments are right in front of you. Like I often say, the presence of a storm does not mean that God is absent. You might not feel Him, you might not see Him readily, but that doesn't mean God is not there. Moses shows us today that in the midst of the challenges of our lives, we are called to be intercessors. And so my invitation to you today, just like I invite myself, who is God calling you to intercede for? Who is that one person who's given you so much hard time that you are called to intercede for that person? I can tell you as a priest, with all of the assignments I've had, every single place I go, there is always someone. If it's not someone, it's a family. If it's not a family, it's the whole parish. But there is always someone to intercede for them. But my joy is this: there is someone else interceding for my behalf. And so today, as we receive Jesus in the Eucharist, what is the prayer that the psalm tells us to remember? Remember us, O Lord, as you favor your people.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.